This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. Now, the Stuph File presents Andrew Fazekas, the Night Sky Guy. It's radio that's out of this world.
Andrew Fazekas, the Night Sky Guy, is a member of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada and the author of National Geographic's Backyard Guide to the Night Sky, and also National Geographic's Stargazer's Atlas, the Ultimate Guide to the Night Sky. And Andrew, apparently the asteroid that killed off the dinosaurs is being studied more deeply than the Zapruder film.
That's right. There's a lot of interest, of course, in this very historic impact, that changed the course of history, of course, on our planet, wiping out the dinosaurs and so many other life forms on our planet 66 million years ago. And this, of course, is the study of the Chicxulub impactor crater. It's named after this small town that's near the edge of this 90-mile wide crater that was carved out of the basin, the ocean basin, back in 66 million years ago, sent a huge monster tsunami around the world, and basically killed off the dinosaurs through very severe climate change that happened, and they couldn't survive it. Of course, the little mammals scurrying about underground, which eventually formed all the mammals that we see today, including humans, survived that historic impact 66 million years ago. But we don't know too much about the rock itself that hit. We know about the size. It's about 10 kilometers across, the rock was. But, its origins, its pedigree, we just did not know very much about until recently. We've been starting to analyze some of the trace elements that rained back down on our planet from that giant impact, and these minerals that they're looking at are actually on the other side of the planet in Europe, where it rained down 66 million years ago. And by looking at those little elements, they were able to tell that the rock, the originating asteroid, was probably coming from beyond Jupiter, which is interesting because most asteroids in the solar system reside within the asteroid belt, which is between Mars and Jupiter. So this rock was probably part of a group of asteroids that are influenced by the gravitational well of Jupiter. So it's very interesting. And this kind of gives us an idea of what the city-sized rock was about, how it may have gotten here, what kind of gravitational dance it went through to reach Earth so long ago. And it's really interesting because the origin of objects like this has been a great mystery to scientists. And understanding these ancient giant asteroids that is really pivotal to understanding the evolution of life on our planet. We think that there were actually multiple impacts of similar type of asteroids that occurred over many hundreds of millions of years. And those impacts represented times where there were huge extinctions on our planet. So it's very interesting. There was a time, Peter, billions of years ago, when the inner solar system was continually pelted by asteroids and comets. It was called the Great Bombardment Era. This was way before the dinosaur killer asteroid. We're talking over 1 billion years ago. But you can see the remnants of all of that activity on the moon. The surface of the moon is just filled with craters, and the vast majority of those were formed during that great era of bombardment. And so even though this asteroid impact happened 66 million years ago, not 1 billion years ago, it still tells us that there are probably more rocks like that, giant city-sized rocks looming in the outer solar system, not beyond the asteroid belt, which is really interesting.
Oh, good. Good to hear. I mean, the dinosaurs roamed the Earth, and despite what some people might think, dinosaurs and man did not roam the Earth at the same time. But dinosaurs weren't as evolved as we are, so as a result, they didn't have to worry about a Bennu coming their way because they didn't know any better. But we do. Now, you mentioned the location as to where that giant rock hit that killed off all the dinosaurs. Where on Earth is that exactly?
So that's it's near Mexico. It's in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's you can still see the remnants through like these radar echo systems that the machines that they can put instruments they can put down. They've mapped out the consecutive rings of this impact crater. It really does look like an impact crater if you look at the seismological kind of data. But it's underneath the Gulf of Mexico, underneath the water. You can't really just go and see it. It's not visible to the eye, and but the remnants are still there. And of course, because of Earth having very high geologic activity, there's a lot of tectonic activity, and weathering. Very strong weathering systems, weather patterns, climate over many, eons erases these signatures of these impacts. It's very different on the moon, right, Peter? Because there's no atmosphere there. It's pretty much of a dead celestial body compared to the Earth, and so a lot of these ancient impacts remain frozen in time, and we can see them and study them much more easily on the moon. But the moon is our closest celestial neighbor, and so we use the moon as a great analog in studying these ancient impacts.
Excellent. Okay, you mentioned gravitational dance, and that kind of goes to the next story that I want to touch on. The Jupiter-bound JUICE slingshots its way from Earth on its way to Venus before heading to Jupiter. So I want to know why it needs to go the wrong direction to Venus to then whip past Earth again before heading off to Jupiter.
Yeah, and just to be clear here, there's multiple encounters between Earth and the Moon and even Venus before it gets to its destination. And the reason for this is really economical in many senses, and to get the biggest bang for their buck for scientists. So this mission, JUICE, represents a really cool mission that is designed to orbit the moons of Jupiter, for us to analyze the moons like Europa, Ganymede, Callisto, to understand these moons. They're very interesting to science because we want to go there and study them, because we think they're actually huge oceans that are covered with a layer of ice on the exterior shell of these little moons, and these could be harboring life. It's an environment that could be hospitable to life in our solar system. These moons have that possibility, so we want to study them more closely, and so that's what JUICE is all about. Now, when it gets there in 4 years' time, they need time to study these planets, and not just time. They need to be able to maneuver the spacecrafts and really these death-defying dives close up to the moons. And to do that, they need fuel, and they need a lot of it to do that. And study each of these moons multiple times, doing close barnstorming, basically, these moons. And to do that, they need a lot of fuel. And to save on the fuel, it's best to do what we call slingshot methods of using the gravitational pull of moons and planets in the solar system to help us save fuel to get us to our final destination in these outer planets. This is a technique that has been used before in other missions very successfully. It's amazing the engineering that goes on, and a lot of death-defying maneuvering that has to be done many times last minute during encounters, like the one that JUICE just did with the Moon and the Earth, where literally the spacecraft Barnstorm just flew past Earth no more than 6,000 to 8,000 kilometers in altitude only. That's closer. That's a magnitude closer than where our communication satellites orbit the Earth. Like they were close. It went closer than that. So these kind of maneuverings are very difficult to do, but if they do it right, which they seem to be doing with JUICE, they can get this spacecraft to Jupiter in 4 years' time. We have to wait a while, but it's going to be filled with fuel. And according to what I've read from the European Space Agency that's been piloting this spacecraft, they've actually managed to save more fuel than they have expected already. So they're really excited because the more fuel they can save with each of these slingshots by Earth and the Moon and Venus, they can do that much more science once they reach Jupiter's moons.
And that's an interesting story. And I actually saw some animated video which explains exactly how JUICE slingshots. So now with that and what you had to say, I've got an education. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Of course. These are like such cool times that we live in with missions like these.
Absolutely. And there's so much more that we can talk about that we didn't get a chance to. So how about if we go over to Patreon?
Yeah, let's do that. I wish everyone clear skies.
Andrew Fazekas, the Night Sky Guy. You can go to our website at thestuffile.com to the page for this show, which is show number 0788, and you'll find links to Andrew's site to get your own personal autographed copy of his books. And Patreon subscribers, you can hear more of Andrew as a Patreon reward extra, where we'll discuss other countries besides the U.S., Russia, and China who are carving out their own space programs, the recent Polaris spacewalk, why we should regulate the moon to share its possible resources, and more. Just go to our Patreon page, and if you're not already a member, become one of the select patrons of the show. Visit patreon.com/The Stuph File Program.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.